Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to be with you. Did you just get out of the shower? Or what'd you do?
No, actually, the hair stayed down for once.
Do you need like a card with a stylist, a barber, or something?
No, not barber. Barber's good.
Need a recommendation?
No, so far I think we're good.
A loan?
Yeah. It was the worst is when I first moved here. The same person cut my hair for 20-something years, 18 years, until I came here from high school. I thought, well, where am I getting a haircut now? It took me a good while to find.
Oh, God. Unbelievable. All right. So, let's see. Cowboys. No, don't need to talk about that. They're awful. I want to start here. Penn State, of course, will have everybody knows it's going to be a tough matchup on Saturday. Now, okay, I thought it was going to be a tough matchup when they went to Wisconsin, and guess what? It was a tough matchup, and Penn State was able to go out, win the game 28-13. But you know it's a tough matchup. Look, they have a good quarterback, good running backs, good receivers, good tight end, good defensive end, good middle linebacker, good safety, who, by the way, down the road will be a great safety. I mean, they've got a lot of things on that Minnesota team. You sit back and say, yep, deserves respect. A lot of respect. Playing there, cold weather. But then again, State College isn't in the banana belt either. So so we're not going to, believe me, they've practiced in cold weather before, so that's not going to be an issue either. But you have all these factors, and what's going to be a 2:30 Central Time game, 3:30 Eastern Time. All right, the game before that is going to be Indiana and Ohio State. Indiana, how have you watched them at all this year?
Yeah, I watched a couple games. Watched the Nebraska game, watched the Michigan, most of the Michigan game.
Yeah.
There's inconsistencies. I think there, especially second half. I think at that time.
I'll say this. You know what would be concerning to me if I were an Indiana fan? The second half against Michigan, they had 12 yards.
Exactly. Yep.
Not 12 yards passing, not 12 yards rushing.
12 yards.
They had 12 yards in the second half.
Absolutely.
Right? That would concern me. Now, I do know that Michigan still has, and Will Johnson didn't play that day.
Right.
But they still have an excellent defense. Get these numbers. We all know there are 134 teams. Well, I guess most of you probably don't know that. There are 134 schools that play Division I FBS college football. Obviously, who is last in passing yards? Army. Right?
Makes sense.
Right, they're 134 and last. Air Force is 133. Although I'd still like to be my Air Force to be proficient in the air, but that's just me. Right. Okay. But check this out. Who's 129 in passing? Michigan. Who's 127 in passing? Iowa. Brendan Sullivan, by the way, hurt, won't be able to play. They're going to go back to Cade McNamara to play against Maryland this week. It is amazing that to think that a Michigan football team would be 129th in the nation in passing. It is not as amazing that you would have an Iowa team at 127 with one exception. They have Caleb Johnson at running back. You would think at some point a play-action fake would hold a lot of people. Don't you?
Assuming you have effectiveness throwing the football, it should.
Yeah.
And running the football.
I mean, you're already stacking the box because of Johnson to begin with. And by the way, UCLA did a very good job defensively on Johnson. One of the few teams that has been able to do that. But you would think a play-action fake with him being like the guy, instead of wearing a number, I think he wear 2, right? They might as well just put a target. Here's the guy. The whole offense revolves around this guy right here. And they can't throw the ball. Iowa can't throw the ball. It's stunning.
Yeah.
That you have a running back and a running game, because the offensive line plays a role in it, tight ends, right? And this includes, Jim Lachey, his son Luke, is an NFL-level tight end. Right? In fact, I was talking to Jim earlier in the month, and believe it or not, he is not going to do the Ohio State-Michigan game because it's Luke's senior day. And I think it's great. To be honest with you, I think it's great.
You only see that one time. Yeah, that's absolutely the right move.
Yeah. No, and Ohio State, Ohio State's like, oh, yeah, Jim, don't worry. Jim's done that. He and Paul have been together for 26 years.
Outstanding job.
They are a great broadcast
Absolutely
team.
agree.
Right. But, they've got a quality tight end in Luke Lachey. But at wide receiver, what do they have? It's stunning. And they're 6-4. So their defense is not as good as it had been, but it's been good. Their running game is terrific. Their tight end's terrific. And then, of course, we all know about the issues with Michigan, as Brad Nessler said to me before he went to do which game did he have? Did he have Michigan and Indiana, or was that Big Noon?
No, that was CBS. Yeah,
that was CBS.
Yep.
He said, Steve, this is my 3rd Michigan game this season. He says, this has never happened to me before. It's the 3rd time they've had a different starting quarterback. 3 different guys. I mean, so I just think that's something that's interesting about where they are. And when you're sitting there and looking and saying, okay, well, Army is 134, it makes total sense. That's what they do. They run the ball. So they're not going to throw for any yardage. Okay, got it. Okay. Everybody understands that. Same story with how Air Force plays. But Iowa and Michigan are trying at some point to throw the ball. Paul Skeens, National League Rookie of the Year. Luis Heel of the Yankees, their pitcher, was the American League Rookie of the Year. But for Pirate fans, this is tremendous because here's a guy that's the first overall pick in the draft. They really didn't play a lot of games in terms of getting him to the majors. I liked what they did with him. They sat back and said, okay, you know what? The heck with this. Let's just bring him up now. Okay? And you're talking about a guy that's 14 months removed from college. I just mentioned Air Force. Well, guess what? He was a catcher at Air Force and did some pitching. And he showed so much promise as a pitcher, they said, Paul, maybe you ought to go to the SEC. I mean, they encouraged him. He went to LSU. Well, there's no question that people hyped him as a generational talent. Guess what? He is.
Mm-hmm.
And, he debuted in the majors less than a year after being the first overall pick in the draft. And look, let's give him credit. Yeah. He surpassed every expectation.
Absolutely.
I mean, the expectations for him were up here.
Yeah.
He surpassed all of that.
Absolutely.
It's their first Rookie of the Year since Jason Bay 20 years ago.
And it's almost unheard of.
He got their 31st place votes. He got 23 of them.
Yeah, and should have. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, look.
And Merrill had a great year.
Jackson Merrill's a really good player.
Sure.
He's out there every day for the Padres. Yeah. He is really good. Heel beat out his own teammate Austin Wells and Colton Cowser of the Orioles. I guess it was a tight race. And but Skeens is 11-3. think about a couple of games. The record would have been even better. I think he would have been 15-3.
I agree.
Some games late. 1.96 ERA. That's the lowest ERA for any rookie with 20 starts dating back to 1920.
That's incredible.
170 strikeouts. And he's one of the 3 finalists, by the way, of Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler for the Cy Young Award. Merrill, who had been a shortstop in the minors, they said, well, he's really good. Let's put him in center field. He only hit 292 this year, 24 home runs, knocked in 90, 16 steals. And his defense was very, very good.
Very good. Yeah.
Heel got 15 of 30 first-place votes in the American League. Cowser got 13. He was only 5 points behind Heel. So, yeah, credit where credit's due. We got another player the Twins lost. He traded him to the Yankees. Last Yankee to win the award was Aaron Judge in 2017. But the Skeens thing,
Yeah.
is just like, I would like, the one thing I don't know, and I would have to look it up. I don't think it would take long to look up. What was the average attendance at PNC Park when he pitched
Compared to
versus other days?
Yeah, oh, man.
Because a guy like him is an absolute attraction. You want to go out and you want to watch him, and he doesn't just throw a pitch. He throws a wide variety of pitches, and he's got great command of all of them. So, yeah, that's... I just... they asked him about his goals, and he said, one of my goals is to pitch deeper into games. Hey.
And they almost averaged 37,000 every time he pitched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was selling out.
Yeah, that's...
The place seats, what, 38?
Right around there. I think it's... Yeah. I don't think it's 40. I think it might be 39, but I don't think it's 40.
Right. By the way,
38,747. So I would have said 39. That would have been pretty close. Look at that. I said 39. It's 38,747.
This show
Bob Barker would have been happy.
This show is a tug of war.
I think it's...
No, I would have been right. Okay, Bob Barker, you can't go over.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I think it's also, and like this isn't a full criticism of the Pirates, but I think they have been known to hold back a lot of their prospects, and what Paul Skeens did there, I think, is a little bit unheard of.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I liked how they handled them. I praised them. I said I liked how they handled them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great for the Pirates, great for Pirate fans, great for Paul Skeens. Now the question will be, can they figure out a way to lock him up?
That's the ironic part, and I think a lot of people know this story by now, but that, there's obviously trading cards have taken off, but there's a 101 Paul Skeens and, Topps Update Chrome Baseball that just came out, and the Pirates are offering to get that card 30 years of season tickets, 30 years of batting practice session, tour of spring training, but my thought was exactly that. What if he leaves in 3, then what?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You got to sit back and you got to figure out a way to keep him because you have the ultimate number one pitcher.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Just like the Phillies, they have an ultimate number one in Zach Wheeler.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay. We've done some digging, by the way, and you did buy Netflix to see Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. No, we found out.
No.
So let's start with this.
Sources failed you on that one.
Would you like us to bring in some sodium pentothal?
We need complete law firms. My Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe are lined up out there. I'll get them in here.
Attendance at AT&T Stadium, 72,300. Okay. That brought in $18.1 million in revenue. Oh, we're not done. Okay. The previous Texas gate record was set by Canelo Alvarez's 2021 showdown with Billy Joe Saunders at 9 million. Okay. Meanwhile, let me see here. The the Netflix number was what? YouTuber turned boxer against an iconic heavyweight champion paired a historic main event with Katie Taylor. I don't know who she is. Beating Amanda Serrano. Was the biggest gate in any boxing or MMA event outside of Las Vegas in U.S. history, according to Paul's Most Valuable Promotions. 72,300, 18.1 million in total revenue. They said it's streamed live on Netflix, clocks in as the 9th highest combat sports gate in U.S. history.
Man.
Okay. As a result of the
My
success
goodness.
of the Paul Tyson Netflix stock rose 2.8%. It's now at $847.05. Now, your brilliance is you bought Netflix stock at $5. So it's really such a trailblazer. They say it rewrote the record books, blah, 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 blah. The event was a massive success on Netflix despite widespread streaming issues, with 60 million households tuning in for the Netflix first foray into live sports. Okay. So Netflix has announced the debut, as you mentioned yesterday, of WWE's Monday Night Raw on the streaming platform will take place on January 6th. That'll be at the Intuit Dome. What a structure that is. When I didn't go in it. We went by it. And I was like, whoa. Kind of looks like a spaceship a little bit into the ground. It's really it's a lot of glass. It's like, wow. And, of course, what's their next foray into sports?
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. Here's the key part of the sentence. The event was also a massive success on Netflix, comma, despite widespread streaming issues.
Oh, yeah.
Comma. Well, let me put it to you this way. On Christmas Day, when the Steelers play the Chiefs at 1 o'clock, Beyonce will be in the middle performing between games. And then the Texans take on the Ravens at 4:30. There darn well better not be any streaming issues, because
not a chance.
You can mess with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and people will be mad. You mess with the NFL and they'll be furious. If they got 60 million households to tune into this, how many are you going to get for the NFL on Christmas Day?
Especially who you have. Yeah, that first game.
Well, but remember, people, if they already had Netflix, of course they can get it. But all the people that bought Netflix to watch this fight, are just going to keep it to watch the NFL game.
Sure.
Then maybe in January, drop it. That $847.05 for Netflix stock is going to be in February. Okay. But that's amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, again, some people already have Netflix to begin with.
Right.
Okay. There are people that bought Netflix or put it on their TV through whatever subscription they have. But they added it in. Okay. Well, guess what? They're not going to drop it with the NFL game on Christmas. They're not going to do that. They could get 60 million people, maybe 70 million. And don't give me the over the river and through the woods thing. I mean, don't bother with that. A lot of people have a lot of get-togethers on Christmas Eve,
Sure.
A lot of people that are of faith will go to Christmas Eve Mass.
Absolutely.
Not as many go Christmas Day. They want to go to Christmas Eve, usually.
Christmas at midnight or close to it. Yeah.
Right, whether it's a midnight Mass or a late afternoon Mass on Christmas Eve. Christmas morning is, hey, kids, hey, look, tree, the whole thing, great, hey, big breakfast, the whole. Then you get to the afternoon, you're like, why has the NBA been so successful?
Absolutely. That's the day they bank on the most is, excuse me, is Christmas Day. You go to when they locked out the one year, they opened up Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Because they knew that it couldn't lose the ratings that day.
So they have an opportunity here. Because, again, at this point, once you get to Christmas afternoon, that's like the relaxing part for many people.
No doubt about it.
I'm not saying for everybody.
Good chunk of it, though.
But I would say a large portion of the population, they get to Christmas afternoon. Now, they're either like trying to figure out the new electronics, trying to put together toys, whatever.
Sure.
But most people are relaxing. They got their feet up. And they may want to watch an NBA game. Or in this case, hey, it turned out I got Netflix for the Paul Tyson fight. What the heck? I still got it. Steelers Chiefs at 1 o'clock.
Absolutely.
It could be a bonanza for them.
Yeah.
It could be a bonanza.
I agree. And they got to be ready for it. I don't think there's any question. Now you know the traffic you're going to endure in terms of a stream. And that's one of the biggest things. You go back to years ago when you were ordering pay-per-views, when you were ordering boxing matches, big boxing matches, at times it was an hour wait to get through, and then they finally realized, okay, here's the traffic we're dealing with. Right. Let's not make these people wait an hour. And that's what Netflix now has to do. Now you know the traffic you're dealing with, and you're going to deal with a heavier traffic come NFL NFL here on December 25th. You got to be ready for it.
Sure. Yeah. Wow, Post Malone and Jerry Roll are coming to PNC Park May 29th. Meanwhile, you're going to see those has-beens.
That's right.
Metallica.
May 25th. In Philadelphia, though, folks. Not coming to Pittsburgh this time around.
God, just the mere thought. How much money have you blown on watching those guys over there?
Too much. Way too much over the years.
Well, then don't do it anymore if you think it's way too much. What the heck's wrong with you?
You get your money's worth.
Money's worth? They play the same songs.
Pretty close. Yeah. New album this time
close?
around. New album this time around, so not entirely, but they'll still play.
Do you have good seats?
Yes. Yeah. Yep, the club, they had a club, well, they still do, but it used to be a paying membership where it was $35 for the year, and you got first dibs on tickets. Now they've made the club free the last probably 10 to 15 years, but we're deemed legacy members, the ones that paid, so we get
You're a legacy member?
We are, because we've been members that long, so yeah, you get the first crack at the tickets. Typically, unless it's a massive show, I can get decent seats.
You're a legacy member.
I am.
So
now they played the Apollo one time, so those obviously were very, very difficult to even get. So I was happy to be in the venue. And that's a small theater, obviously. Anyway,
what are you thinking here? Do I have to come up with all the? You could be driving right now a luxury SUV based on the money you have blown on that. And they don't even appreciate you.
Probably not. That's probably the worst part.
They don't appreciate you at all.
I do have used guitar strings from them, not that I could prove it. They'd have to take anybody that if I were to pass on, somebody'd have to take my mother's word for it. But
oh, you're just unbelievable. And how much are these tickets?
They're about 160 now. They've gone up quite a bit.
You paid $160 to hear the same songs over and over again? How many have you gone to now?
This would be 17.
17 shows?
This will be number 17.
Golly.
Seen every tour aside from 2009. Or 2004. Their album in 2004. They were supposed to come here and canceled. That's the only reason I didn't go to that one, or I would have gone to the Pittsburgh or Philly show that year. First time I ever saw them, ironically. Well, no, first time I ever saw them was Camden, New Jersey. Second time I saw them was here, 1997.
Mm.
Right before Bernie Punt retired at the BJC, they came back. 2018, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got to meet them backstage?
Did not.
All right, so they didn't want to talk to you?
No, they did not. They said that not under any circumstance bring this guy back.
Wow.
What's amazing nowadays, and it's not just Metallica, it's Taylor Swift, and it's a lot of other big acts, is just the merchandise stand, what time people start lining up nowadays. Now, I know, I get not a lot of people are buying them to keep. I understand that, but you used to be able to go to a show and get the show poster, like the actual commemorative lithograph. You'd go there 2-3 hours beforehand. You'd have no problem. Now you pretty much have got to go there almost overnight, which I don't do. At this point, like no way. I'm not that. I'm a huge fan, but I'm not. I have plenty of show posters. I don't need any more.
All right, let's take this one more step. How much merchandise have you bought over the years? At the shows. Not online, but at the shows.
I'll usually get a shirt. It used to be shirt and poster. Now it's pretty much a shirt. So it's...
Well, of course, you can't be both. Right? You already spent so much money in the tickets.
That's right.
You're out of money.
That's right. Yeah, now usually I at least get one shirt, and there's usually something small I'll pick up. So it's probably $50-$60 I'll spend. Never forget about parking. That's another one.
Oh, boy. By the way, Alex Ovechkin did get hurt last night, but he scored twice. He has 868 goals in his career right now. 868. So for him right now, 26 away from tying Wayne Gretzky. 26 away from tying Gretzky. Gretzky, the all-time leader, with 894. Ovechkin is 868, but he did suffer a lower body injury. I always loved the NHL.
Yeah.
It's a lower body injury. Really? Let's see. Notre Dame, by the way, will play Army this week. I mentioned Brendan Sullivan is out as the quarterback at Iowa because he's hurt. He's out for the season. That means Cade McNamara will start against Maryland coming up on Saturday. Don Brown fired at UMass. Tom Herman fired in his second season at Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, how about that?
Wow. And very interesting. The SEC, of course, has its late season run here. So let's talk about some of the SEC games coming up this weekend. Tennessee will be at home, by the way. Did you know that? They're going to play 2-8 Texas El Paso.
Oh, boy.
Georgia, 8-2. Which, and again, has Georgia played a great schedule? Yes. They're going to play 2-8 with a new head coach, UMass. South Carolina, coming off the big win, beat Missouri, 7-3. They've got Wofford.
Jeez.
Last week, of course, Alabama won. They beat Mercer. Auburn won. They beat Louisiana Monroe. Texas A&M won by 5 touchdowns. They beat New Mexico State. And you know what? Have you ever heard a panel discussion on College Game Day about this scheduling?
No.
Ever?
Never.
Ever. You never have heard them on College Game Day. Sit down. Let's have a frank discussion on, again, they're ranking teams right now for the college football playoff. How am I supposed to rank Georgia after pummeling UMass? How am I supposed to rank Tennessee? Am I supposed to suddenly feel better about Tennessee after beating UTEP? Come on.
Yeah, I agree. And
Alabama beat Mercer. Well, you know what? I think I'll move them up. Not everybody beats Mercer 52-7. Everybody in FBS does.
Yep. Unless you're in the NCAA tournament, Duke doesn't beat them. But yeah, even ACC. Florida State's got what? Charleston Southern this week, or somebody like that. They might finally get win number 2.
Yeah.
And you really, honestly, I don't know how much it helps you playing at this stage of the game either. Those are the kind of games I think, most Division I schools not named SEC do it the right way. You're playing those in tune-up games in the second game of the year because you're not really where you need to be as a team just yet. Now, pretty much right now where it stands, yeah, you're banged up, but you're probably about where you want to be, if not beyond that. So I don't know how much it helps playing a game like this, especially when you're in a rhythm, getting ready into the end of the year.
Well, okay. I'll give you a little counter to that. We all know Purdue is not a good football team.
Right.
We know that. Okay. And Penn State they're not Mercer, they're not UMass.
No, exactly. That's right. What's in front of you on the schedule. Right. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Okay. But it's a conference game. But Penn State was able to go out, play the game, not get too banged up, win the game, play a lot of different people.
Sure.
But at the same time, you've got everybody that started played into the third quarter, which you're always going to do that anyway. You don't pull starters in the first half. You always want them to go into halftime, stay in the practice of how you do halftime, stay in the practice of coming out of the locker room and starting the second half. You want to keep that pattern going so the players continue to be used to it. Okay. But they did play the game. And I thought it kept them sharp.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, I think you get more out of that in that case than having a bye week. Because at least you're playing somebody and you're still having to execute against somebody, and it does keep you sharp. Right? And I think, right? So these are games, for example, where there's no question who the, quote, prohibitive favorite is in each game. Georgia's a 42-point favorite. Tennessee's a 42-point favorite. Everybody, Citadel's playing Clemson. There's no line on that game. Wofford's playing South Carolina. There's no line on that game. But by playing the game as opposed to getting a bye week, now a bye week can benefit you. And I know you get banged up. I think the timing of bye weeks. I'm not so sure the timing of a late season bye week is great.
I agree.
I know Minnesota's coming off a bye week. This is not. I'm not talking about Minnesota here.
From Indiana's perspective, too, I think you had a lot to clean up. So a little bit there, but yeah, and I think ideally, I agree with you. It's not.
I think ideally, you'd like to play it. So in this case, scheduling a game, and it's not a conference game, okay, but what do you get out of it? You get out of it just the reps,
right,
against somebody else, and if you can come out of it, for the most part, injury-free, I think you do get benefit out of playing the game because it keeps you in the rhythm of playing games. So you do that part. I will, in a point counterpoint, say I've seen that, as opposed to okay, we got a bye week. Okay. I'll never forget Penn State basketball one year. I told Jack this the other day. We were talking about bye weeks. I said, I'll never forget one year in the Big Ten, they were playing 18 conference games at the time. Not 20 like they do now. So you get 2 bye weeks. Essentially, a bye week is like a Wednesday and a Saturday somewhere, so you only play once that week. That's what we call bye weeks in Big Ten basketball. You don't get a whole week, But you'll play Wednesday and you won't play again until the next Wednesday. Or you'll play Saturday, you won't play again until the next Saturday. Those are the, quote, bye weeks, not 2 games in 1 week. Penn State opened the season on a Saturday because their bye week was Wednesday. They closed the season on a Wednesday because their bye week was a Saturday. Penn State played 18 consecutive games without a bye because the 2 byes they had were before it began and after it was over. And we're at the Big Ten tournament, and I said to somebody, I said, can you explain this to me? Oh. They didn't realize. Oh. I said, well, the computer kind of does a lot of this stuff. I said, don't you have humans check to see? I said, these kids are exhausted. I said, they played 18 straight games without a break. He went, oh.
Jeez.
I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I said, but how loud would the cry be and the war of words be if this were Michigan State, not Penn State?
Right. Yeah, from a football perspective, Joe Paterno, for how many years, harped about, hey, there's no bye week. They didn't need a bye week here.
Yeah.
Finally, it comes in when you get the conference championship.
Now, this year they have 2.
Yeah.
Right, because of the way the calendar fell. Yeah. Labor Day to Thanksgiving was 14 Saturdays. That's why there are 2 bye weeks. Next year it goes back to 1. Bill Conley wrote an article on ESPN.com about Florida State. Mike Norvell, first 13 games went 3-10. Next 15 games went 9-6. Then the next 19 games he went 19-0. The last 11 games he's 1-10. It's so in the history of top division college football, there have been 14,788 teams. None of them went to see Metallica.
No.
Only 3 have had their winning percentage fall by more than the winning percentage of Florida State. And 2 played during World War I. Colorado State in 1917 went from 6-0-1 to 0-7-1. Colorado Mines, were used to be a season ticket holder, went from 4-0 to 0-4-2. Now, that's during World War I. So, obviously, they were losing players to the war to go to Europe. 2012 Southern Mississippi went from 12-2 to 0-12. They say the Noles are likely to finish at 2-10. They expect to win this weekend over Charleston Southern. Should they win, they would have the 8th largest win percentage collapse ever. That's because of beating Charleston Southern. Jordan Travis era, right? Outstanding.
Uh-huh.
But again, everything does coincide with losing a quarterback. Austin Davis at Southern Mississippi. Nate Davis at Ball State. Lamar Jackson at Louisville. Okay. Plus, at the other schools, Brady Hoke left Ball State, moved up. Larry Fedora left Southern Mississippi, moved up, which also compounded their losing. They say that Norvell's going to keep his job in all likelihood. 2025. Even if it means telling his assistant coaches, well, somebody had to be sacrificed, it's going to be you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. He may keep his job, but he's not keeping his job where it sits right now. There's no way. Not when you, at Florida State, go 2-10, which I expect him to do.
Jim Lukabaugh, former Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma State player, was the head coach in his 8th year in 1946. He went from 9-0 to 3-7-1. Terry Brennan, 1956 Notre Dame, went from 8-2 to 2-8. Yet the 2-8 team had the Heisman Trophy winner, Paul Hornung.
Uh-huh.
They didn't get back on track till 1964 when Ara Parseghian came in. Ara Parseghian was a great coach.
Yeah.
SMU with Bill Meek. He was in his 4th year at the time. They went from 5-4-1 to 0-9-1. 1961 Illinois. Pete Elliott was in his 2nd year. They went from 5-4 to 0-9. After going just 2-7 in 62, led by a guy named Dick Butkus, they went 8-1-1 and won the Rose Bowl. Their next good season was 1963. Let's see. I always tell you what the next good season. They did great research here. Oklahoma State, 1946. Next good season was 53. Notre Dame, 56. Next good season was 64. SMU, 1960. Next good season was 66. Illinois, 61. Next good season was 63. Didn't take long to get back. 1985, Jack Bicknell. Now remember, with Doug Flutie, a quarterback, they were 10-2. They went 4-8 the next year. Next good season, they bounced right back in 86. Okay. 1991 Louisville, Howard Schnellenberger. They went from 10-1-1 to 2-9. Their next good season was 1993, just 2 years later. Mike Price in 1998. He had Ryan Leaf at quarterback. They went 10-2. They fell to 3-8 the next year. Their next good season was 3 years later in 2001. Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame, 2007. He brought that team in here to Penn State, and they got crushed.
Yep. 31-10.
Yep. And the only touchdown was an interception return
pick
for a touchdown.
Yeah, took the lead, yep.
It was like a 75-yard play or something like that. All right. They went from 10-3 to 3-9. Remember, he got the big contract extension, the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Next good season wasn't until 2012 when Brian Kelly got there.
Yeah, national title. Or national title appearance year.
2021 Northwestern. We're from 7-2 to 3-9 with Pat Fitzgerald. Next good season was last year, 2023. 2021 Indiana, Tom Allen. Okay. They were from 6-2 to 2-10. And of course, the next season was this year.
Yeah, I think absolutely. That's a great article, I think, when it comes to, and especially you talk about the quarterback play. And I go back to Notre Dame, 2006. Brady Quinn wasn't great. He was good enough, I think, to go what they do, 9-3 is it? And I think 2007, you start with
Jimmy
Jones.
Clausen.
Yeah, Clausen gets his first start here. Jones, I think, started the season. I think Clausen, got the start here. Heavily touted, highly touted, heavily recruited.
And best regular season game Austin Scott played, by the way.
Yeah, yep.
And that was the first full stadium whiteout. That was a 6 o'clock at night game.
6 o'clock at night games. They had a NASCAR race on, and they moved LSU to 9. And I remember that.
Penn State crushed them.
Yeah,
right.
Chris Bell with a big catch in that game.
But this is where, and Rob King and I were talking this morning. He's the play-by-play voice of the Steelers. Big fan of yours.
Rob's a good guy.
Rob's a great guy. Yeah. We were talking this morning about quarterbacks at one point. And I said, well, look, I said, you look at, your quarterback right now, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson at NC State had 103 career touchdown passes, tacked on, 35, 40 more at Wisconsin his senior year. I said, by the time he got to the NFL, he'd been there, done that, seen everything, seen every kind of defense, seen every kind of team speed, things like that. I said, because I was relating this to Drew Aller now making what's going to be his, 24th career start at Penn State. I said, the NFL has run into trouble with guys that had a season and flashed. And then when they got here, hadn't seen everything, been there, done that, and didn't have the experience. This is where now I'm going to relate this to Florida State. In the transfer portal, you know what they can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so let's take Oregon with Dylan Gabriel. Well, you watched Gabriel at UCF and thought, the guy's a really good quarterback on the college level.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's going to translate to the pros. He did not get a good pro grade last year. That's why he stayed.
He's not pro style.
Right? But that's why he ended up staying.
Yep.
Right? He went to Oklahoma, and guess who engineers the comeback in the Cotton Bowl against Texas last year in the Red River rivalry game? Dylan Gabriel. And he was great. Now he goes to Oregon, I think trying to see if he can capture the same Bo Nix kind of, go from Oregon to the pros magic. Okay? But you knew what you were getting in him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now let's get to Florida State. And by the way, with Miami with Cam Ward, I watched enough of Washington State game. I thought this guy is going to be a good quarterback wherever. Well, it turned out to be Miami. Well, guess what? He's really good. Florida State went with DJ Uyunglele.
Yeah. And he's done what?
Right.
That's a good point.
And again, you're talking about miles and miles of video footage that you can look at on this level as to what they can and can't do. He has miles of it at Clemson, gave you more miles of it at Oregon State. What made them think that he was going to take over for Jordan Travis, who gave them superior quarterback play the last year and a half of his career? Where was it? This is on their staff for evaluating the quarterback position the way they did.
Yeah, I agree. And
again, you have all of this footage of seeing him on this level. This isn't like an NFL scout saying, hey, does it translate to our level and so forth. You already didn't see him on this level. He played against you at Clemson.
Yeah, and that's what I think made Ohio State that much better this year. They knew getting Will Howard, okay, we don't have that top three quarterback.
And Will Howard's
good. He's good. Exactly. He's good. But we also know, okay, we're going to need a running game. Let's get a running back as well. Going to need receiving core. We've recruited well enough at that position. So Ohio State...
We need a safety.
Exactly. No doubt about it. And that's where I think that's the difference when it comes to scouting and NIL and recruiting. That's what separates great teams from your average to good teams. And that's where you have to recognize your personnel and say, okay, here's his weakness, so let's complement his weakness by doing this.
Right.
Florida State didn't do that.
I'm not knocking DJ. This is not...
I'm not either.
No. In any way, shape, or form, I'm not. You are who you are.
Yeah.
So this is not a...
Right.
Like, I'm not knocking the player here. I'm knocking their coaching staff for looking at him and getting all of this video as to what he can and can't do, and they thought he was the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And when he transferred there, because I've seen, you've seen a lot of it, because Clemson is on a lot, and I actually saw him play at Oregon State last year on TV. I'm like, okay, well, Yeah, I remember watching him, like, well, he's a little bit better. I didn't say a lot. I say he's a little bit better. But how do you sit there and consciously, although I know they made a run at Cam Ward. I do know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like they weren't trying to get one of the top guys. But how do you sit back and say that's the guy when you've got so much video that tells you that he'll be fine for you, but he won't be exceptional for you?
Yeah.
Right. That's the issue. Like this falls on them on evaluation.
Yeah.
On evaluating guy, they're not evaluating him off 1 year.
Yeah.
He had already put in 4 years of video.
At 2 schools. So, and that's why I think, and you also could have used last year to your advantage in a big way. You know, it's very well documented and very well known how angry they were not getting into that national title picture, not getting into the playoff. There's where you use it as a recruiting tool. Hey, we were 1 game away from getting to the playoff. You could be that guy. You know, that's where you sell the heck out of a quarterback, and you had the opportunity, without a doubt, if you were Florida State, to get a. And again, I don't knock the guy, but I think you could have done better.
Now, does NIL play a role in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cam Ward ended up going to Miami.
Yeah, not a doubt.
And you have to think that.
Not a doubt.
The NIL, because Ohio State tried to make a run at Cam Ward.
Yeah, they did.
And I don't know.
I think
it's one of those that in the end, maybe the circumstances dictated this was their best option, but it was that decision right there.
Yeah, I agree.
That was the beginning of trouble for what was, and not because he's bad. He's not bad.
No,
but he's also has so many limitations as to what
and
he
not
can
proven
and
in a
can't
lot
do.
of spots. Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
All right. And again, what was he coming out of high school?
Yeah,
5-star, 5-star of all 5 stars.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why, as great as these recruiting people are, and they are incredible at their job, I wouldn't want their job. It's not.
I can't do their job.
I could never do their job.
I can't.
It's not an exact science. It really isn't.
I think the beginning of trouble for them started with the Georgia game.
Yeah.
Well, the beginning of trouble started when Jordan Travis got hurt.
Travis.
And then they compounded it when either they settled for this or they thought it was the best option, which was their evaluation, and go from there. Ohio State's athletic director, Ross Bjork, says it's going to be an off-season conversation with Fox about Big Noon Kickoff. I don't think people realize that when they play Michigan, that'll be 5 consecutive noon starts. The entire month of November will be noon starts for Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State's going to have 3 consecutive 3:30 starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Penn State will go noon to 8 o'clock, 3:30, 3:30. Eastern time, of course.
Yeah, and look, when the bigger fish speak, the even bigger will listen. I don't think there's any question Fox is going to listen to that conversation.
Well, look, Tony Petitti knows.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, have I ever talked to Tony? I've talked to Tony a couple times. Big fan of yours. And he says, look, I said, the big fish. He said, he knows the big fish are. Okay. He's very open.
Absolutely.
About it. He knows it's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State.
Yeah.
He readily throws Penn State in there in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Right? USC.
Yeah.
I don't care what USC's record is. They're big.
Yeah.
They're still a big fish. That's Los Angeles out there, and they're a brand. That's why people are wondering, like, why are they circling, the fogged-in airport they've circled in. They have lost so many clothes. When they were done playing Penn State, they lost on how many games by 13 points total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something's been missing for them. But he understands who the big fish are.
Absolutely.
Right? He's got great brands. Well, the great brands include 4 of the top brands in all of college sports.
I agree.
Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, USC. He knows that.
Yeah.
So if Ohio State's complaining about it, which then will be backed up by Michigan, be backed up by Penn State,
100%.
USC doesn't really enter into this conversation because they really don't want to schedule any 9 o'clock games out in the Coliseum.
No. And same with Oregon. They're not.
Right? And they really are not in the mood to have them play at 9 o'clock in the morning here either. They made UCLA do it.
Yep. Made UCLA do it and made Oregon do it a couple of years ago against Ohio State.
Yeah.
When they weren't in the Big Ten. So, there's.
Oh, and by the way, Oregon won the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's.
And Thibodeau didn't play.
No.
Thibodeau didn't play in the game.
Nope, he didn't.
All right, done for the day. Another fabulous one. We'll have Mark Wogenrich tomorrow on the show. And once again, we'll be anybody wants to email in the name of a barber. What are you thinking?
I'm all for it.
Believe me, based on the comments I'm getting about your camera presence, they're all for it.
That's right.